Hello, hello, it's your Fox, Fox. Long time no see with one of these videos. And well, today I like to actually have some more constructive, less rambly kind of conversation between what is better between FireAlpaca and Krita. Both pieces of software being free and that you can get right now if you really want to. But maybe I assume that a lot of people has trouble deciding which is better for them, right? I mean, there's plenty of free art software out there, but I think these two are very much deserving of a discussion. Now, if you didn't see here at the beginning of the video, this is all me setting up Krita, and I think that sets the message of what Krita really is. Now, for starters, I have to say that Krita is incredible. I think it's an amazing piece of software, and as far as I know, it's open source, so there's always a lot of improvements and tweaks and updates for it. But at the same time, I have to say that Krita is quite complicated, or maybe not complicated, complex, maybe, if that's a better word compared to complicated. Regardless, something I can tell you that about Krita is that it's probably much more than just simply doing art, like you can see here when I'm actually getting started with a little fox example. I think Krita is just like an airline pilot, like an airline's pilot cockpit. You have to imagine this capsule with a lot of buttons and switches and like screens and everything, because that's how Krita felt to me. You have a lot of options, you have a lot of customization, if I can speak English, and you have like a lot of opportunity to do plenty of things. Here, as you can see, I'm like experimenting with all the brushes that there are, and there are plenty. I'm pretty sure you can download or acquire more on the internet, so you can very much easily install more brushes and like have a great amount of things for your tools and what you can do with the art, that whatever things you want to do, right? Now, that's not to say that FireAlpaca is like a Fisher Price kind of software. Like, we're not saying that FireAlpaca is just like Windows Paint in any way. But I can tell you that Krita did give me a lot of options to use, to the point that it was a little overwhelming. Now, this is not shown in the video, I think, or at least it's going to be for a very brief second, but the options for like blending modes are plenty. You have options for like transforming, you have options for like editing, and again, you can even turn Krita as an animation software, which, by the way, I actually used, but you'll see that in another video. Now, I personally did not like Krita. It felt a little slow on me, and I really wasn't a fan of how it felt as an art software. As an animation, I'm more enamored with it than anything else. But again, I'm not really complaining to say that Krita is bad or you shouldn't be using it. I think Krita is more suited to you if you consider yourself more of a pro, or if you already have plenty of experience with art software and maybe you're bored of whatever you were using. Like, for example, if you have been using Paint Tool, say, for years and feel like you can do something better or have more options, this is the way. I think this is the way, but it'll take a while to learn, in my opinion. I don't think it's an easy thing to get started with. So yeah, Krita is amazing. It has plenty of options, but it will take some time to learn, right? Now here, for example, I was doing a little fox drawing that I always like to do for the beginning. And yeah, it was trying to be done in a painterly style, but I think if it looks with that amount of detail and everything, it's thanks to the brushes. But here it is, a little fox drawing. Okay, let's take a look at the next piece of art that I made on Krita. This was a request from my friend Jaxy. Shout out to Jaxy, thank you. But now this is when I tried to do something more digital art, like regular, instead of like digital painting. Now, in this one, I struggled a lot more because I did not know what was the best brush or the best pen, if that makes sense to use. I didn't love how I was doing the shading. I didn't love how the selection things worked, the paint bucket tool. Again, everything had to be configured. Because in Krita is a very open and you have a lot of options, but for some people that could be a problem. Maybe you don't want to have to fine-tune the paint bucket tool to the point of like pixel expansion or even reduction and all those things, right? there are so many options. Again, it's a little overwhelming of how much Krita lets you do, but maybe to the point that you don't actually want to invest a lot of brain power into that. And since you can configure a lot of stuff, you can also very easily break things. However, there's a beautiful reset button at the very top. So if you break something, which I'm going to assume that happened a lot to the point they needed to add a button for it, yeah, it's probably best for you to at least know what you're doing or know what each setting means. So that's the extra layer of challenge. Not only do you need, like, of course, probably get used to different art software, but you also need the technical knowledge to tackle it, right? In this example, however, as you can see, I just picked up a brush with no pressure just to like get started, and I was just like fondling with the line art a lot. And yeah, watching memes, because this was a stream. This is just like sped up 50 times. But yeah, I did not really like how the other lines worked, or sorry, brushes worked. But for this particular case, it was especially tough, I have to say. Now, another thing that I personally face with Krita is that sometimes it uses a eyedropper tool, which I detest why that happens. And I still cannot be, I still don't know why that happens. I can tell you that definitely it's probably something to do with my hardware. I'll be sure that more people would be complaining about that, but I don't see anyone complaining about such thing. And another thing that I don't like is that, for example, in FireAlpaca, you can very perfectly just bring out your brush, press the little thing that clicks in the pen, and I'll show you the brush thing, right? Not something that happens here in Krita, but again, that's probably because of my configuration, my hotkeys, yada yada. If you press a key or the button in your pencil, it'll bring up a menu, which is really cool. It has a lot of options. You can like tweak a lot of things. But it doesn't automatically select your brush tool. It's very weird because you press that button, but the brush is not selected. So you can see the options, but that doesn't mean you're going to paint. Again, I wish I made sense of this. Probably, I hope some artist knows exactly what I'm talking about. If not, well, I'll try to bring some visual to like show what I'm doing. Anyway, yeah, and here the tools can get a little bit annoying because they don't switch as smoothly as in FireAlpaca. But again, maybe my configuration, I'm not really sure of individual experiences here. But yeah, well, this is the final result of my drawing for Jaxy. I'm gonna be honest, I did not love it. Not that I don't love his character, not that I don't actually like what I did. It's just like I thought I had so many obstacles, personally. Now let's actually go to FireAlpaca. As you can see, here it is, a much simpler layout, much straightforward, quote unquote, with a couple of annoying buttons for Pixiv and FireAlpaca, which are removed if you pay, what, like, $15? Well, it was 300 Mexican pesos for me, so yeah, around $15, $20, more or less, just to get two things that I think are essential. Dark mode and those two buttons to go away, because I thought those buttons were really annoying. And the dark mode not being a thing was also especially annoying. And another thing that I really didn't like, but I don't know if it was my drivers, my computer, or my tablet, but it's the thing that some curves don't actually work well in FireAlpaca. And by that I mean is when you draw a line and you make a little curve, it shows some jagged edges. And I don't know why it does that. I have no idea why it decides to show that thing. I wish I had an answer, but I tried to check my drivers, I tried to check my computer, and even the settings in FireAlpaca, I don't know. Now, this is when I bring a secret third contender, Medibang. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, by accident, I think not, but Medibang, I think, is the better version, the better free version of FireAlpaca. If you really don't want to pay a single cent, like on Steam, to pay the special edition, the Steam version, which has dark mode and removes that stupid Pixiv and FireAlpaca buttons in the corner, that's probably a way better place to go. Unfortunately, it has ads. Now, it doesn't show you like the latest mobile game where like Mario's twerking with its ass in the air. It's not showing you that, but it's showing you a lot of ArtStation contests going on and like Japanese stuff. Because I think that Medibang is definitely much more focused in a Japanese audience, or at least an audience that likes Japanese culture. So I don't want to say weeboo, but it's definitely like for the type of art, like it's only very much Japanese. You want to make a lot of manga, or you want to make illustrations, kawaii stuff, that kind of thing. I think FireAlpaca is better because not only does it not have that, it only has that stupid pair of buttons and no dark mode. If you purchase it on Steam, you get rid of those buttons. Well, there's an option for that. You get the dark mode, and it's essentially kind of like Medibang. Again, if you're more interested in manga, or if you're more into that kind of like Japanese art, definitely I think that's a more solid option than this one. You should try checking it out. And that's another crucial detail, that another thing, I don't know what they did to the code, but there are a few things that are different. The rulers, for example, here in that you have at the top left side in FireAlpaca are different in Medibang for some reason. And I think they work better in Medibang. Again, from what I can remember, I didn't use that software in a long time. If you check out my previous streams, I was using Medibang as my primary art software, but I didn't like the ads. And the fact that you need an account, and the fact that you also... It insists a lot on using the cloud, which is not free. You do have, like, I think a few gigabytes for free, but it's just a method that I guess they want you to use it so you can, you know, subscribe to their cloud. Because that's the bad thing of Medibang. They offer a subscription. The software itself is not subscription based, but me in my humble Mac that has very little storage space, thank you Apple for charging triple for a terabyte of space, which I don't. I have 250 gigabytes of space. So I always struggle with storage space, but I use the Google Cloud instead. I just upload everything to my Google Cloud, and I paid very little for that. I mean, not to say that Medibang is expensive. It's really not, but I don't think I need to have my cloud integrated in the software. It's much better for collaboration, I can tell you that, because it has the options to like leave comments and like make this thing of having different pieces of art with another person much easier, or with a team even. Anyway, here's the first illustration, or more like practice, that I did in FireAlpaca. It's just a little concept for my Shardbyte system that I was creating for my stream. You should totally follow me on Twitch if you want. Shameless plug. But here it is. Maybe not a good point of comparison between the fox eye for Krita, but hey, I felt a little bit weird to try that again almost immediately. Anyway, now this is the second piece of art that I made for FireAlpaca. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I think this is probably more the thing I should have started with. And even then, I did not love how this one turned out, but you'll see in the end. I'm sorry, Jaxy. I really tried, but I guess I didn't have the technical skill to do this properly. Oh well. Now, in summary, and since we're approaching the end of the video, I think Krita, at the end of the day, is that option if you know what you're doing technically. And technically, I don't mean art-wise, I mean software-wise. If you really want this tool with a lot of options, a lot of things, a lot of tricks you want to do, versus Medibang and FireAlpaca, which are both much simpler and easier to pick up right as you start. However, between Medibang and FireAlpaca, if you're more Japanese, or if you're more into, not more Japanese, excuse me, bad wording. If you're more into Japanese art, if you want to do manga, if you want to do that kind of thing, yeah, go for Medibang. If you're not really into either, and you want some free software that doesn't start with an ad, with wants you to have an account so you can use things like fonts, which are cloud-based, which is a little bit BS, but they provide you with the fonts in the cloud. Because again, those little things are, I think, what make the difference. Or especially if you want dark mode and if you don't want to spend the money to buy the Steam version, yeah, I think Medibang is the superior one. Because again, I don't think FireAlpaca is bad in any regard. It's just these little things are probably the factors that are going to influence big decisions at the end of the day. Now, to be very honest, and something that I guess I realized now that I have been using software like Paint, Paint, even a little bit of pirated Photoshop. Don't take down my channel, Adobe, please. Or, for example, now FireAlpaca, Medibang, and Krita. At the end of the day, it all depends on your skill. Like, it doesn't matter what you bring to the table or what you have, what you pay for. Because yeah, I guess I'm still yet to use something like Clip Studio Paint or Adobe Illustrator or anything. Yeah, here's the finished art. I did not love how this one turned out, to be honest. If you like it, that's great, but I didn't love it. I think it was not a huge fan. But hey, I'm still gonna do some more of this character from my friend Jaxy. Alright, last piece of art. It was just a little study, some random doodling. Another bad example of the capabilities of FireAlpaca. Oh well. As I was saying, at the end of the day, it really all depends on your level of skill and how good you are at art in general. I guess, yeah, eventually your knowledge on the software or how well suited or how much used to it you are, yeah, that will show up eventually, but I have to say, or in my opinion, I think the software will never, ever be the deciding factor of you being a good artist or not. I have to say that doing stuff like this, the stupid ass studies on like skulls to like know how a cat works, at the end of the day, that makes the difference between making great art or not. And by great, I guess I mean technically refined art versus, you know, anything that doesn't look like crappy. Because I have to admit, when I was doing art at the beginning in any digital like senses, I thought Paint Tool was the best, but that was when I was like 12, 13, 14. When I moved to Medibank, not out of me wanting to, but like me having now a Mac instead of a Windows machine, I didn't like it at first. I thought that as soon as I switched back to Paint Tool, everything would be better, but no. Then I did some Medibank art and I guess it looked okay. But to be fair, I spent years without practicing. That's something that I guess it's worth mentioning. Yeah, the tools that you use are going to give better results than something that you don't use at the end of the day. Hey, when you get used to either Krita, FireAlpaca, Medibank, or whatever, that's always going to show up because you know exactly what you're doing, you know what buttons to press, and you know what to expect from the software, right? I remembered learning Paint Tool from top to bottom. I don't know if I can still make any Paint Tool drawing. Maybe I should try in the future. If I ever get like to have anything Windows-like, which I'm not very eager for. Oh well. But yeah, you have to get used to the software. I know it might look a little bit intimidating on like what to start with first, because it's an investment of your time. It's an investment of like what you want to do with the digital process. And I'm sure some of you might not necessarily be completely like sure of what to use, and may be a little bit intimidated of where to start. May be even a little bit self-conscious of like the program already wrestling against you if you are not like in love with your art, right? But don't worry, it's a process. It's a matter of patience and like deciding what to do. Quick note, I made this cat blue and I played a Walter. Somebody mentioned the Walter White thing of like, why are you blue? And it made me laugh. There it was. It lasted for a split second, but there it was. Anyway, we're approaching the end of the video, and thank you if you got all the way over here. If you reached this part watching, thank you so much for joining my little pep talk on what art program to use. In summary, Krita is really specialized. FireAlpaca and Medibank are much simpler. Both between the two, they have different things. Dark mode and a few extra features, very little honestly, for the paid version, but hey, no ads and no stupid buttons. And, well, at the end of the day, it depends on your technique. Don't worry if you feel like you picked the wrong one. Unless you're, like, held at gunpoint on what to use, don't worry. I think you'll be okay. But here's the last piece of art. Okay. Hopefully that has helped you in any regard. Hopefully I just didn't, like, waste 20 minutes of your time. I'm so sorry if I did. But thank you so much for watching. This was your Fox, Little Foxy, and I'll see you in the next Speedpaint video. Thank you!